and then it skipped 6 today and 4. So whatever. Alrighty, you guys, welcome back to the Unlock Your Freedom podcast, man. I'm excited to learn with Mark Ashby today, man. Mark, welcome to the show. What's going on?
Yeah, thanks very much for having me, Kevin. It's fantastic to be with you.
Yeah, man, I'm super pumped to unpack all your genius because I've been reading through your website and all your good content out there, and just looks like you got a really powerful. Man, it's a cool heart-centered approach too. I didn't see you mention that, but I definitely feel that after talking to you and reading through your stuff, and just really helping people be more without making them feel like less, especially leaders. So, could you tell us a little bit about you and who and how you like to serve?
Yeah, it simply forms, I suppose, for myself. I grew up in Sydney. I've been here my whole life, and I grew up at the beach. So essentially, I was a surfer by the time it was, the age of around about 5 years of age. And my dad was a surfer, so I naturally went to that same line. And that was where I really lived my first half of my life, or my junior life, I suppose. I loved the beach, lived very close to the surf, and I was there every day and before school, after school. And I was a tradesman actually early on. I was an electrician, and but it was something that I'd never really loved. It was just a bit of a means to fund my surfing habit and my doing a few competitions and things. And I was competing around Australia a bit back then, and that was the dream. But the reality kicked in, and I'd always had a little bit of a fascination with the military, especially the specialist side of it. And that's I decided sort of in my sort of mid-20s thereabouts to give that a go. Much to my parents and my friends, dismay, or I think they couldn't believe it. So off I went and joined the Australian Army, and I wanted to, I suppose, be the best version of myself in that arena. And I really wanted to get into there's like an elite parachute unit in Sydney, and that was my dream, to get into that unit. So they have a bit of a process to get in there, like most specialist units, and I managed to get into that unit, which I was, absolutely was, like I said, my dream. And managed to do a couple of operational tours of East Timor with the paratroopers. But then I got the amazing opportunity to go into the Middle East as a private contractor. Of course, when the towers came down in New York, it changed, not just your lives, but all of our lives as well. And I suppose I wanted to sort of be part of it at the time. Everything was going on, so I got an opportunity to go to Iraq as a private guy in early 2004. Actually got attached to the US military over there, the Army. Attached to the Green Berets for a while, and doing some amazing things. I think some people's perception of what the private guys are doing over there, it's probably, a bit incorrect. You hear the stories, but in reality, what we were doing was amazing. We were doing a lot of undercover work and making sure the elections ran smoothly over there, and making sure the election personnel were looked after, and taking sort of directions from the US military, but in a proxy sort of environment. And it was the first time it had sort of happened in history. So it was an incredible experience. And I was going to stay maybe a year or two, then go back into the Army, but I ended up staying 11 years over there. And
Wow.
I think 41 rotations, about roughly 1,600 missions.
Wow.
And it was a crazy time. The best experience of my life and the worst experience of my life all in one package. We got to meet some amazing people. Got to do and see things I never would have thought in my life I would ever do. So it was a great experience. Ended up at the end doing a few years at the Australian Embassy as a team leader there, looking after our ambassador. Came back to Australia in 2016. Not really knowing what to do with my life, like a lot of us sort of guys that have that bit of an identity crisis when we come back. And so I ended up doing a bit of work for the government in a bit of a sort of black role there, and then I started working for a friend of mine in the corporate world, just doing talks and sort of motivational talks and a bit of risk and crisis and awareness, things like this, which I really loved. Had a bit of a knack for it, and had some really good advice from some senior people in the sort of we were working in the media circle. So I had some great conversations there, really encouraging conversations that I should maybe take it further. So then I decided to go off to university as well. When I did my master's degree at university, sort of counterterrorism, geopolitics, and intelligence. The master was counterterrorism, and that was, I suppose, a real, in a way, a bit of a backbone for my business. But then I sort of really wanted to I suppose, go out into that sphere of what I love doing, and that was working in that environment, like we spoke about before, of working with individuals, high performers, and like I said, that CEO level and the board level, and helping them to get the best out of themselves. And that's where I've been ever since. It's sort of morphed into that role, and also doing a few talks, keynote talks more at the board level, in the company level, which I'm sort of expanding on now. But yeah, that's pretty much it, and that's what I'm doing today, and just trying to basically help people out in that sphere, in that exec sort of world, to get the best out of themselves, a bit of a reset, if they're maybe having a bit of a tough time, or lagging a little bit, or forgetting where they've come from, why they started, and to help them out.
Yeah, that's very cool. So obviously a huge shift from, surfing and competitions and going into the military. And so you went from a lot of freedom to being told what to do, probably, overnight almost. And that takes like a tremendous amount of humility to shift, that dramatically. And so that's really powerful. And then after, talking to you in the green room before we got started, and just reading through your content, it's like a lot of humility through everything that you kind of say and do. And like, does some really cool stuff, man. Powerful guy with, just like very impressive resume, and super humble. And I love that, because, humility to me is just, being able to see good and value in other people and not having all the answers. And so was that kind of the way you've always been, like humble like that, or is that learned behavior? Because I know it sure is for me, because I did not start humble. I started the other
Yeah,
way.
look, I think I've always had that element there with me, even when I was young. Just that, even that upbringing, I suppose, from my own mum and dad, to just be respectful to people, and little things with my dad, shaking people's hands when you meet them and look them in the eye and stuff like that. And I no longer have my dad with me, but he was such a great role model. And yeah, so I think that was a real start. And for me personally, I just love if I can get somebody who's in a bit of a bad space in life, and I can really, really sort of, maybe, like I said, turn that mindset of theirs around to actually, especially the ones that maybe think something's unachievable in their life. They think, I can't achieve that. And I love to actually make them realize, actually, you can achieve that. Through a bit of hard work and a bit of self-belief, it's amazing what you can do. And I love getting the quieter ones. You go into a business and you're talking maybe a boardroom, and you're always going to have that couple of alpha people. You're always going to have that middle group of the collective that are all joking, and they know everything that goes on in the business, and they're all laughing. There's always a couple of quiet ones, and they're the ones that I love singling onto, because sometimes you can really find diamonds there amongst those people, because they don't back themselves enough, and it's about making them believe in themselves, basically.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so powerful. And that's like one of the coolest gifts that we get to give people as a coach or a trainer, or educator or whatever, is the ability to go past the previous limits they set for themselves. Like, hey, like, these are just decisions you made. Like, let's make new decisions. Like, we come from an unlimited entity, and however you like to think about that, it's it's infinite, and that's a lot of power that we have access to. And we make these finite decisions, and like that becomes the law. And it's like, no, like, you can change. Like, change is one of the guarantees we get. You're going to die one day, you're going to pay taxes, and things are going to change, man. Pretty guaranteed on all three of those.
Yeah.
So can we talk about the paradigms? And I know, like, one of your specialties is really just helping leaders shift from toxic values and limiting paradigms to being more adaptable, and just really moving forward, and co-elevating together. So just, could you help us understand really some of the really, I don't know, ways that you do that? Because I think when you can help people shift away from the limiting beliefs, that's a gift that pays dividends for the rest of their life.
Yeah, look, I've got a bit of a system that I use. It's quite systematic what I do when I'm in there, and a lot of it's drawn from my background and what I learnt on working on the teams overseas, working with really strong individuals for many years, and I've taken those lessons into what I'm doing in the corporate world. And it's like a system we've developed, and it's called the Diamond methodology. And it's a really simple thing where it basically takes out the emotion out of really important decisions. And you have your positive and negative aspect that we have in life. And people don't really realize that they use it every day. It can be the most simplest thing, like you go into your favorite restaurant at night, and do you take the short way, and do you take the long way? Do you take the way it's more lit up at night or darker at night? And these are things we just do naturally. We don't even realize it. But because you're taking emotion out, and you think, what's going to be the best direction for me? So what I do is I do that exact same thing in the corporate world, and I'll take that decision-making process, and it's so they can become a more effective leader. And a really great example can be, you may have a a personality in that business. Let's say like a board member who leaves abruptly, and maybe they've caused a few problems in the business. They call it a toxic, sort of situation there. And of course, you ask every single person in the business there, are you happy this individual's gone? And everyone's going to turn around, of course, and say, yes, it's fantastic that he or she has gone. It's great. But they're only looking at the positive of that. They're not looking at the negative of that. All of a sudden, you have that hole. And maybe that person was in control of all of the tender process, the contracts, they got all that experience. And so there's going to be a hole and a void there. And who's going to come in and replace them? So that's what I try and really make them look at both sides of the equation, because that's how we ran our teams overseas. We never went out on the roads on missions with an emotion sort of based mindset. We always went out there thinking, what's the best way that we can go out there to get our task or our mission completed, to get us all back safely, to get the clients back safely, and really do it to the best of our powers. And we'd always break the mission down. So that's a real way that I really try and do it.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, because there's always some sort of cost, even if it looks like this is the best move. Like like maybe we need to evaluate, hey, what kind of vacuum are we going to create when we remove this one person? And I saw you talking about on your LinkedIn profile about leadership being about the heart and the mind, and I love that, because I agree with that so much. Because I think so many people just use the mind solely, and it's just like, it's finite, right? And there's just we need to be reasonable and logical, of course, because that's how we plan and strategize. But I can't solely live there. I need to get really the gut and the heart involved, in my opinion. And so, could you unpack that a bit for us?
Yeah, I was very, very fortunate overseas. I got to work with some amazing leaders. One in particular, he was actually one of your generals. He was a 2-star general in the army, and great man. And spent a lot of time with him personally. Got to know him very, very well, and he just really taught me those two real key elements. You can have that professional approach on one hand and that real empathetic approach on the other. And he was very, very big on that. The way he treated his own soldiers, his own troops, all of his juniors, he looked after them, and they just idolized him. And very simple things, like he would want to find something out. He would just come and knock on my door. And I mean, he's a 2-star general. This stuff doesn't normally happen. And we'd just sit down and have a coffee and have a bit of a laugh. And it was such an inspirational man. And when you have that, sort of from such a senior level, then the way I look at it, if you're at a person who's not really at that level and you've got an attitude, then it's like, to me, it's unacceptable, because it's just really counterproductive. And I think the best way of getting the best out of your people, especially as a leader, is to inspire them. Because if you inspire them, you look after them, you show them how professional you can be and how productive. And of course, everything's about profit as well, but also, those little 1% things about going around the business and getting to know your staff and sitting down with them every now and then, having a bit of a chat, and they'll do anything for you. They will literally do anything for you. They're the people you want. They come to work Monday mornings, and they love being there, as opposed to the other side of the coin, where you'll get people come to work on a Monday, and all they're thinking about is Friday afternoon straight away, and that's the last thing you want. And I think a lot of CEOs that I've worked with that have had issues, they get, I think, lost in their own system. They forget, I think, where they came from and where they started and why they started, and they've really left that space behind. And the good ones, they really encase it all, and they still love it. So that's my sort of take on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that word, inspire. And I think that's really important, that as leaders, you're very intentional about inspiring and empowering. And that's what I basically heard you say. It's like, if I inspire you, I can stimulate you to action, right? That's great. And then I empower you, I give you the knowledge or tools of like what to do with that stimulation. And, that allows you to creatively solve your own problems. Because, like myself included, a lot of either, ineffective or newer leaders, they try to solve everybody's problems and be the man. And the problem is, you have to be there to solve all the problems. And another problem is, you're not going to be able to solve all the problems. And if you're trying to do everything your way, you're just like severely handicapping the whole organization. And so we just go a little deeper on really innovation and creativity, and really, understanding, what does the best me look like, so that I can, create, my leadership from the highest levels.
Yeah, look, I think with the way things are as well, and it's a good point at the moment, especially after the last couple of years that we've had there's been a real shift, I think, I think everybody's mindset, the way that work, travels now with the whole hybrid working environment now. You're going to have a different approach in the future with leaders that are going to have to be also adaptive. They're going to have adaptive workforces. They're going to have people that are a lot more, I suppose, switched on to what they can and can't do anymore, what they actually think is the best thing for them out of their own working environment. And I think a lot of people now just won't accept that anymore. They just won't accept the basic. They want something extra. Especially you're going to get candidates that are super experienced with a great resume, CVs coming in, and they're going to really test that water. Then maybe that whole I want to work in the office 2 days a week and I want to work at home from 3, and leaders are going to have to roll with that as well. I think you're going to see a lot more female leaders as well coming in. That's going to be a big shift. That old sort of boys, thing of the past, the boardrooms. I think that's also going to be a bit of a shift in the future. And I think a lot of leaders are going to have to really, I suppose, be aware of that and be adaptive of that. Look, it's just the modern age. It's different. But I grew up in the 80s, and the mindset's all changed now. And you have to adapt, and you have to be flexible and flow with it. Even me myself, you have to. You can't. Otherwise, you just get left behind. And you've got to embrace technology in the business, in a technology that actually works for you, though. But you got to not be scared of it. And that where that can also help you out as well. I mean, we've seen technology in the last 10 years do amazing things, and even the last, I suppose, 5 years now with all these different platforms we're speaking on, and where we can be connected with people now around the world. I can be speaking to a CEO in the States or Europe, just like you and I are speaking. It's like they're next door now. So I think there's a big change. I don't know whether it's going to sort of plateau out a little bit and stay as it is for a while, or whether it will keep progressing, but it's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it's really just adds to the ability for people and organizations to be prolific when you empower different types of people to come up. And like you said, I grew up in the 80s too, and there's been a huge shift from just the gender diversity or ethnic or whatever. And I think that's awesome because like we all have our own form of genius, and so I want to leverage as much of that as possible. And you kind of started to talk a little bit about, like positive and negative, emotions, especially when, things are going south or some sort of crisis. And really, I think one of the important things for people to understand is like, it's okay to feel bad or to have negative emotions, right? And it's dangerous when I ignore them or suppress and repress them, because I just make them stronger and I dissipate my power. And so when, especially with regards to leaders, like how do you help them understand how to embrace, all of their power, whether it's positive or negative, especially when they're making decisions, in the fray?
I've found what works for me. It doesn't maybe work for everybody. I think it's probably just my background having that approach where we're not as, and I'll say we in a collective sort of, means that people like myself, that we're not as, I suppose, intimidated or scared to go into that boardroom into the CEO's office and really be honest with them. You maybe have somebody who's worked in that corporation for many years. They're terrified of the CEO. I'm not going to go in their office, but we just go in there like we just don't care. We care, but we don't care. You know what I mean? Like we care about the individual. I go in there and I want to learn about that person. I want to learn about whether he or she, where they are, where the business, where their mindset is, what their personal life is like. And people may say, "Oh, you shouldn't get too personal with people or leaders." And for me, I disagree. I love finding out who they are. I love finding out about their life and sitting back and listening to their story. And I think not everybody has that skill, Kevin. I think it's something maybe you're born with, that bit of a communication skill where you can gain people's trust. And it's something that I've really, I suppose, developed, over the years and got much better at it as well. And I think I'm quite good at that now, is really getting to the bottom of someone's personality. And you want to give them that real message. You're actually there to help them, and you're going to stand by them through thick and thin. And they can tell you anything pretty much, and it's in that little cocoon of silence between the two of you. And it's about, like I said, flipping their paradigm, flipping their mindset around, and almost like a bit of a reset. And whether they're working, and whether they've got too much of that masculine approach and they're working 70 hours a week and they're burnt out and they've been doing it for so long, and the money to them isn't important anymore because they've made so much money. It's about scaling them back a little bit and making them maybe just look at the little simple things that they can readdress. And it can be sometimes the subtlest change that can really turn it around. And I mean, it's a lot of, keep going back to how we did a lot of things overseas where I learnt that, where I surrounded myself with really great people. And I just ran the ship, but they all knew their roles. They knew what to do. I didn't micromanage them. I got the best out of those people. And it was a real pleasure to be part of, to watch that over many, many years at that real elite, professional level. And I love taking that into that other sort of CEO boardroom sphere and getting the best out of them. So that's my real approach to it.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. And, like, I totally agree with you on, starting with the personal and the professional, because, like how I'm doing anything is pretty much how I'm doing everything. So if I have huge issues going on in my personal life, then that's probably dragging me down professionally and definitely spilling over. And man, just getting to know people is so important, because I really want to understand what things mean to them, not what it means to me through their eyes, right? Like that doesn't serve them. I need to see through their eyes as them as much as possible. And you use that great word, trust. Like that's like the first piece, like is so crucial as a leader or a coach, consultant, whatever. Like if people don't trust you, they don't feel safe. And if people don't feel safe, they're not going to be creative, because creativity is always a little risky. You're going to the unknown. You're bringing something that's never existed. And if you don't feel safe, your ego is going to, just shove you back into the known, even if the known's something you don't want. And so I'm sure that you've come across that, where the people you work with, or maybe the teams, like they cling to this version of whatever they think reality is in spite of what they actually want. And just teaching people to let go of needing things to be a certain way to be okay is, a pretty powerful shift if if and when you get there. And so I'd love to know how you really help people, shift from the paradigm they're in to, what they do want.
I think you hit a great point too. And essentially, humans are, we're creatures of habit, and a lot of humans they just don't like change. Like if we have a good thing going, we don't like to change, And but sometimes what we think maybe is good, it may be only good for a certain period of time, and it's all about that sort of being adaptive. And it was once again like what we learn on the teams. It's you have to have that mindset of you want to keep progressing. You can't just sit on your laurels. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind in a sense. And for us over there, that if we made mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes, but if we made mistakes, maybe one of your teammates may lose their life because of your mistake. You can't just go back to work the next morning and reset. You can't just go, okay, we just made a mistake there. Let's just go and reset that. It was a real big one, and we lost a lot of people, overseas, and so you really had to be methodical. And I suppose I want to go into that corporate world, and you can't go in there with that real military mindset, because people will not. I've had friends that have done the similar thing to what I've done in the past, and had issues because they try to go in there with that whole military mindset and be regimental and be strict. And in that corporate world, it's not like that. You're going to get a whole different, read on people, and they're just going to really have that defense mechanism up when you go in there with that attitude. So you've got to really go on that bit of a hearts and minds approach, and you've got to listen. You've got to listen to what they want. And it's just for me about really, like I said, getting to know them and really going through the sort of system that I've got. I've got a system, it's called a waterhole system, and it's based on just going right through everything that I've learnt from sort of scratch to really show them how to get the best out of themselves. And it can be the smallest things. It can, like I said, it can be in their personal lives and how to bring that into work. It can be about their health and fitness. It can be anything. But you've really got to listen to the audience you have, because every single company and audience you have, they're going to be different ethnics, values. They're going to have different cultural values, and I think working with many different cultures and ethnic groups and religions over the years, I just go on there and it just comes really naturally to me. I mean, my partner's, Sri Lankan, so she's from a different ethnic group to myself. So, and that's a really important one. You've really got to be understanding of people's, of their backgrounds, and do a bit of homework and actually learn about these things. So you actually don't go on there blind. And I think it's a little bit of ignorance if you don't really understand, that your actual audience is going to be slightly different to you, and you've got to really give them the best chance of being the best version of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you started at the beginning where you said, come in with this militaristic style approach where it's more about almost like telling people what to do. And if you haven't built the trust first, then people don't really care. They might do what you want and what you're telling them when you're around, but it's not going to last because, as you said, we're habitual creatures. And the great word that you used like 3 times just now, listen, right? Just listen to people. That's what we all want. We want to be heard. Like, I don't need you to tell me I'm right, but just at least hear me, at least hear what I have to say. And that tells me that what's important to me is important to you. And we've all been in a conversation, like whether it's, somebody's attempted to sell us something or whatever, where it's clear that, it's their, sole objective to get what they want. And it doesn't even really matter what I want. And that doesn't make me feel trust, doesn't make me feel safe, doesn't make me feel connected. And it definitely doesn't make me want to, work with people. And, if you truly want to be, any kind of high performer in anything that you're doing, if you're not connecting with people, like you're a one-man band or one-woman band, and you're giving away a lot of power, because there's people who can do some really spectacular things that you're probably not very good at. And it's like, I can't sit around coding my own website, or y'all would never see me again, because I would be doing it for hours and hours with no progress, because I'm not good at that. I'm not talented at that. And that's okay. That's not what I do. So when it comes to elite high performers, like, what does that mean? And like, to truly be an elite high performer.
I think it's somebody that wants to, I think, just get the best out of themselves. They want to be. I think it's not about being number one in an industry. I think it's about, for me, a high performer is somebody that each day they wake up, they really want to be the best version of themselves. I've worked with high performers in both in that military and that private, sort of sector. And they're very easy to spot, because they're going to be leaders, but they're not going to be obnoxious. They're not going to be rude. They're going to be like, follow me, but they're not going to tell you to follow them. They're going to ask you to follow them, because they're going to actually do it through their own demonstration and their own ability. And that's what I really love in high performers. And they're the ones that they buy into it as well. They buy into the whole system, of what it is to be, I suppose, at that elite level of what they do. It's easier to spot in some ways, the people that don't really, they might see themselves as a high performer, but they're really just sitting on that even keel, and they don't want to take chances, or even that calculated chance of getting themselves better. And like I said, the high performer can be in anything. It can be in a sport, or it could be in the corporate world. I think it's great to work with high performers, because they really give off that energy. They really want to get the best version of themselves, and it's an easy sort of fix. It's like if you have a business where you have a CEO that's on board with fixing up that business, and that almost in that high performance mindset. It's so easy, Kevin, because they're basically giving you the green light to go for it, and it's a really great feeling, as opposed to the opposite, when you've got that bit of a look, I don't know about, we should do that. That they don't have that adaptive mindset, that flexible mindset. So I think it's a real kick, though, when you get that sort of, with those great high performers, both male and female. And I've worked with some excellent ones in both spheres. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I'm grateful to have some really powerful people that are like that I get to work with, and it's so much fun, because they're so ready to grow, and they're just open to being more, and whatever that looks like. And it's like the fire's already burning, so it's not that hard to get it hotter, right? Just throw a few more logs on and it's raging. And it's the people that are just, you have to convince them to be more. And it's almost like, I don't know, like almost like Humpty Dumpty, right? The old tale, right? Like every time you walk away from them, they fall off the wall and break apart. So you spend, 45 minutes putting them back together, and then you get like 10 minutes of, actual, coaching and, improving performance and the stuff we came here to do. And so I think that, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You can be a high performer, stay at home mom, all the way to CEO, or, military, like you said. But it's about just understanding that, what, like, I don't have all the answers. Nobody does, but you know what? I'm not trying to take over the world today. I just want to be better, whatever that looks like. And, nobody's perfect, and perfection is, we're all perfect, but we're, imperfect at the same time. And I think it's so crucial just to, have that humility about yourself and about other people. And that's how you move fast. So let's transition to a little fire round here. So I'm sure you got things to do and people to change the world with. So I got some quick questions for you here at the end. We can go through and get you on your way. I'd love to know, for any leader that is really listening, what is a great piece of mindset advice you'd like to share with them?
It's one thing I say to a lot of people, and I do this when I do a bit of stuff at the universities. Is just to believe in yourself. I think it's just having that self-belief and really believe that you can, if you've got something holding you back, something that you might be a little bit frightened of in life. And it can be somebody who's already earning, like I said, big money, a bit of a high achiever. You just got to have that self-belief. When we used to work overseas, we had to believe that we were the best in what we did. We had to, every single day. You've got to be a sports team, an elite sports team that believes in winning every single day. We couldn't lose. And that was the belief, without being arrogant about it, but really having that self-belief. Because it is amazing what you can do if you put your mind to it and a bit of hard work. That's my big thing. Like you said before, Kevin, we're only here for one go at life. We're not coming back in our form as we are now. And this is it. You've got to make the most of it and don't live with regrets. There's no point living, 20 years down the track and thinking, why didn't I do that? Because now I'm here at this age and I've missed the boat. So that's my big tip: is if you've got a dream, is just chase it. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. Get rid of that word should. I should do this. I should do that. And just do it, man. Just go for it. Whatever it is, like what's the worst thing that could happen? Like, okay, you could die, but okay, well, you're going to die anyways, right? Might as well do it, going for something you actually want instead of playing it safe. Yeah. What's something that's non-negotiable in your life, Mark?
I think it's not negotiable in my life is just, I just love having positive people around me. I've been, like we all have, I've been through some bad experiences, I went through a bad divorce and then I lost my father during that same sort of period, and a couple of mates from the military, from ex-army mates that took their lives, and it was a bit of a bad time. And then out of that, I met the most fantastic lady, of my life, and really spun my own mindset around, and yeah, that's so for me now. It's just to have positive people around me and to have my family around me, and those things are really non-negotiable. So that's a big one for me. And it just makes your life easy if you've got those good people around you to give you that support. Because in our sort of industry, like we do, we put ourselves out there, so you need that support and that encouragement as well. And so that's my one.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm on board with that for sure. I think it's so important just to have the types of people around you that echo the way you want to be, because the models of behavior are the people we spend the most time around, and that's how we show up. So really, really good advice. What's a favorite book to read, recommend, or give away?
Oh, a favorite book. I'm reading a book at the moment by a fantastic bloke. I'm trying to think of John's. His name is John Knotts. I don't know if you've met John before. He's an American. He's from down Texas way. He's ex Air Force, and he's a sort of a high performance style coach as well. Does a lot of business things in the States. And yeah, his name's John Knotts, and he's got a book out. It's a great book, and it's just on business and about the whole structure of business. I can't remember what his book's called, so I'm just reading that one at the moment. Though. That's a great read. But I think I just think in general, I love reading anything. I love if it's going to give you something in life, it's going to help you to achieve. So yeah, I did a lot of reading the last few years and just university books. It's just constant reads for uni, in class and with geopolitics sort of reads and things like that. So not really your mainstream reads. So I need to really get myself back into reading normal books again after that sort of couple of years doing that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I bet that's wild too. Getting that kind of, I don't know, holistic look at everything and that geopolitical sphere. I love to read too, and it always surprises me when I come across somebody who's not. I'm not a reader. Did you not learn how? Like, what do you mean you're not a reader? You can read, right? And I just don't like to. Like, man, these are like
you have to.
Yeah, it's like the cheat codes to the universe. You're going to get somebody's genius distilled down in a short few pages. Why wouldn't you take advantage of that? But I digress. I'll get off the soapbox on that one. If you had one message you could get out to everybody in the world, what would that be?
Yeah, look, it's once again going back to a bit of what I said before. My big message is, and it's what I say to a lot of the students. Do these little transition sort of courses at uni, and going from university to the real world. I'll go and talk to the students, and it's just to back yourself, and surround yourself with good people. Back yourself if you've got something that you're good at. If you actually understand your own little bit of individual brilliance in this world, then capitalize on it. Don't sit on it. Don't have regrets. Really chase after it, because we all have it. Everyone's got something in them they can do really well. And if you can do something in your life that you like, or like what we do, I love what I do, then every day is so easy. Life's great, and I'm lucky like that. But I've also worked hard to get here, and it takes hard work and a bit of sacrifice. But if you're good at something and you know what you're good at, then really grab hold of that and run with it. That's my message.
Yeah. Like, what are you passionate about? We've heard that so many times, but I think where people get stuck is, okay, I'm passionate about this thing, but how do I get paid for it? I'm like, okay, this thing you're passionate about, how can you mix generosity into that and serve somebody else with it? And there's always a way. And, like that's how we get paid, the big bucks, right? Quote unquote, is by owning
Yeah,
our uniqueness, right? Not
yeah,
copying somebody else. That's replication. We're looking for creativity. And
yeah. That's
I
great.
think,
You've got to be authentic. You've got to remain yourself. And I promise myself that every day, that no matter what, no matter how successful you are, never forget where you came from, and be authentic. Just be yourself. Be down to earth with people.
yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh. Yes. That's great advice. Okay. So what does freedom mean to you here on the Unlock Your Freedom podcast?
Freedom to me is just really, now that I just get to go through life with those people around me that make me happy. And I get to go and have a hit of golf every now and then, and get out my surfboard, things like that, and just enjoy life. You want to make the most of it. Life should not just be about work, 24/7. You've got to have that little bit of a release, whether it's, if you love watching the movies, or like I said, playing golf, or whatever it is you love doing in life. Make sure you do it, and I think you'll be a better version of yourself. Once you have that bit of advice, you've got to not forget
Yeah.
to actually live a little bit and breathe.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Why wouldn't you have fun? Fun is like joy. Joy is love expressed, right? What better place to, spend your time and live life from a place of joy and love? All right. Last question, Mark. Where can people go to learn more about you and connect with you?
Yeah, nice and simple. My website is mark@markashbyconsulting.com. That's Mark with a K. And my personal email to the website is just mark.ashby@markashbyconsulting.com. So nice and
Very
simple.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'll have
and
that in the show notes for you guys. So I would
yeah,
connect with Mark if something stood out to you that he said. Man, he's a really powerful guy. And, man, really, really cool point of view and way that he serves people. And so if, you're a leader looking for more, he'll take you anywhere you want to go. So highly, highly recommend. Thanks for joining me, Mark, today. I appreciate you coming on, just sharing your genius with me.
thanks very much, Kevin. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, oh man, it's our pleasure. Well, thanks again for being here. And you guys, if you made it to this far in the show, well, you have great taste in podcasts. So share it with somebody who may benefit from hearing what Mark had to say. And if you hadn't subscribed already, please do. We'd love to see you every week. So thanks for being here. We love you guys. We'll see you next time on the Unlock Your Freedom podcast.